Welcome to the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast from Never Too Late Cafe. I'm your host, Laura Womack. Each week we sit down for a chat with someone just like you, someone who had an idea, a passion, a dream, or sometimes just a thought, and planted that seed, watched it grow into something they wanted to share with the world. If you have an idea for a topic or someone that would be a guest for the Bloom Where You're Planted podcast, feel free to reach out to us on Facebook, where you can join our Never Too Late Cafe Facebook group. We'd love to hear from you. And I have a very special guest with me today, Dara Hart Riley. Hi, Dara.
Hi, how are you?
Fine. Just a disclaimer that I pronounced your name wrong a minute ago.
I'm so used to that, though. I have kind of an unusual name. On my radio show, a lot of the DJs will create their radio name, but I just use my name so that people will know how to pronounce it because it is so unusual. It's like Sarah, only with a D, so it's Dara.
Well, I had it written down wrong, and we have it. But anyway, so let's talk about your radio show.
Yeah, I have a radio show with 88.7 WMMT in Wattsburg, Kentucky. It's called Oak Tree Story Hour, and I started volunteering with the radio station because it's something that is very special to my family. I grew up listening to 88.7 as a kid, and I remember hearing my dad on the radio with his friends, and they opened up a couple spaces for volunteers. And I thought, I'm going to raise my hand for this. And I really love to write. So I decided to open a space for writers to send me their poetry and prose to read and sing on air. And that's every Wednesday from noon to 2.
Wow. Do you have enough submissions to fill 2 hours every week?
Yeah, I have quite a few submissions, and I read some of my writing as well. So typically I will pick a theme for the week and just kind of run with it.
So how does someone hear this radio station? Is there like a link that some radio stations don't do that now, where you can actually get on their stream or whatever?
Yeah, you can go to wmmt.org/listen, and you can listen to all the radio shows, all the different volunteers we have. I don't have a schedule in front of me, but we've got some great volunteers right now. We're really coming back pretty strong from the flooding that happened last summer in eastern Kentucky. So all good things.
So that brings me to some reference that you've made about possums.
Yes.
Can you share that story?
So the possum is a funny little creature, and they tend to just do well wherever they're at, and so when the Apple shop at WMMT was flooded, we had to move our broadcasts into an RV. And so now we currently broadcast from what we refer to as the possum den. So right now we're broadcasting right out of a little RV in downtown Wattsburg, right beside the Apple shop. And the station managers have done a really excellent job putting everything back together. So we're building back.
So, well, let's talk about the floods a little bit. Was the equipment, were they able to get it out, or was it damaged, or?
Well, I think pretty much everything was damaged. We had a lot of donations from radio stations from across the country donate to 88.7 so that we could get back on the air. So we've really been shown a whole lot of camaraderie and support from other community radio stations and commercial radio stations across the country.
Um, from not being a part of it, it can seem so remote to someone that's not a part of that flooding and some of the other devastation that's happened in Eastern Kentucky in the last year or so. It's just so hard to imagine if you're not there. And I tend to not see news in that part, and so I guess different parts of the country, and still, there's just natural disasters that happen, and it says a lot for the resiliency of the people and the professions. So did you start before they had the before they moved into the possum?
No, I never had an opportunity to be in the apple shop broadcasting myself, but back in the day, my dad did have that opportunity, so I'm really glad that he got to do that. We have been there, I think, since fall of last year. So, yeah, I started volunteering when they really started trying to make that comeback. Yeah. So,
well, was the Oak Tree Story Hour already in existence, or is this your creation?
No, this was my creation. Dara means oak tree. And so I like to think of myself as a writer. And I thought, well, why not incorporate my name into a radio show name? So I came up with Oak Tree Story Hour, and I basically tell stories for a couple hours every week.
That's wonderful. I mean, and it's a live show, correct?
Yes, it is. It's live on the air.
That in itself takes a lot of nerve. It really does, because it is what it is. So
right. We call ourselves Real People Radio, so that kind of helps to ease the tension a bit, because if you mess up, it's real. I just Real People radioed, so
when I call that raw and real.
Yeah.
Well, it means authentic, but Yeah. So where are you currently living?
I live in Prestonsburg, Kentucky. I'm about an hour and a half, 45 minutes away from Wattsburg. I'm on we're sort of southeastern in the state here in Kentucky.
Okay. I think my only reference would be like Lexington or Louisville or something.
I'm about 2 hours from Lexington.
Oh, okay. Okay. As a disclaimer to everyone, that we met outside of Lexington, and so I assumed you were from that area, but you might have assumed that about me, and I was about 2 hours away too.
Yeah.
So, and is that where you're from originally? Is that your?
Yes, I was. This is where I was born. I moved around a little bit in my early 20s and ended up back here in Eastern Kentucky. I've always said that, maybe there's a magnet, maybe coal is a magnet because no matter how far we go, we always come back home. So that's something to be said for the area.
Mm. And so then you do a group also called Music, Movement, and Mindfulness.
Yeah. So in about 2018, after my second child was born, she was about to turn 2, I believe. And I started looking for ways to find employment. With 2 children and no childcare, that's really difficult. So I had to really work around their schedule. And in addition to that, I just always wanted to do something with music. And I thought about offering singing lessons, And I've always really loved working with children. And so, someone who I've been studying with since 2006, Janine Michelle Freeman, who is a vocal coach, suggested that I look into music and movement. And I started looking and studying, and it was just such a great fit. And because my oldest child was a premature baby, she just needed a little bit more, than other children. And so it was difficult to find extracurricular activities for her. So it really just felt like where I was supposed to be. It felt like the path I needed to be on. So music, movement, and mindfulness is something that I created. And I've seen since other people have kind of infused these three methodologies together as well. But I use percussion instrument play, story time, singing lessons. I try to help children understand a good sense of steady beat. We work on fine and gross motor skills, early literacy, that sort of thing. And it's in a group setting. We also do yoga poses and yogic breathing. And it's a family group setting. And really we focus a lot on parent-child bonding and helping caregivers to find other caregivers who are sort of in the same spot in life, if that makes sense. When you have little ones, you tend to be isolated. And so this is an opportunity not only for kids to socialize, but also for caregivers as well.
So where do you go to a location, or do you have a spot where you do it and people come in, or how's that work?
I have a studio in Paintsville at Mayo Memorial Church Annex. Paintsville is just about 30 minutes outside of Prestonsburg. And I also travel to different daycare centers and organizations like Cowan Creek Community Center and Adventure Learning Center here in Prestonsburg, places like that, and offer classes.
Oh, so that's a wonderful thing, because having myself worked with the special needs population, there's always a need for that. And for families to have, an opportunity with, I think rhythm is important.
Yes.
And music itself, Well,
with music, you're using both sides of the brain simultaneously. And there are few things that create that connection. And something else is that a good sense of steady beat is important for so many things that we don't think about. You need a good sense of steady beat to walk, to talk, to eat, the little things, And in working with children with instruments, different percussion instruments like drums and shakers and sensory toys, and we make instruments out of pretty much anything. It helps with the fine motor skills, and learning to play instruments at an early age helps to build those small muscles in the hands so that when they get into school, they've got that hand strength. We do a lot of group dances and scarf play so that children can get a sense of where their body is at in space for proprioception. So, because you notice a lot of little kids and children with special needs tend to bump into things a lot. And so we try to work on that in class too.
Excellent. That's a great program. So when you mentioned music, you have a group as well, and you play. Mm-hmm. You have a band?
Yeah. My husband and I have we've been playing together since probably about 2006. And we write our own stuff. We like to have fun and sort of give cover songs our own flavor and that sort of thing. Um, it's really just something that we just enjoy doing together. But we do like to get out and gig when we can.
So do you do like festivals or, what sort of places do you play out?
We recently did a festival called the Mountain Girl Experience, and that's in Pikeville, Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also hosting an open mic every last Thursday of the month in downtown Prestonsburg. My husband and I go out, and that's called Inclusion Revolution. And really, what that's all about is just helping people to have a place to play, to network, and to just get comfortable with the stage, because the stage we use is at a place called Rosenberg Square, and it's a very small stage, and it's a safe space, more or less. But we really like to gig at places like that. We really like festivals, and restaurants are always nice too.
It sounds like you are providing a support actually in several areas of your life, from the story hour where you're supporting writers, and the other is supporting musicians, and then the music movement and mindfulness is supporting families. And so that's wonderful, that all these different things that you're doing. So then you also have a project that's kind of near and dear to your life. Can you describe what it is and what you're doing with it?
The MOG Project. The MOG Project is an international organization. It's a nonprofit grassroots organization started by patients with a disease called MOGAD. That's MOGAD. And what MOGAD is, it's a neurogenic demyelination disease. And it's an antibody that attacks a specific protein in your myelin sheath. And therefore, it causes a lot of the same symptoms that you would see with something like MS. But what we know about MOGAD is that it is different than MS, but it does present in a lot of the same ways. So this organization was started by just by patients who wanted to find out more. They did not find the antibody testing until about 2017. So a lot of people who have MOGAD were misdiagnosed with MS. And the problem with that is that people with MOGAD, when they're treated with MS medications, it makes us relapse. And so these folks got together and they started with bake sales. And now they're an international organization that helps to fight misinformation and raise awareness about MOGAD. And we're finding that it's a little more common than we once thought. And so this organization pulls together patients from around the world and specialists from around the world. And at this point, what I'm doing is recording classes in order to be able to offer them to pediatric MOG patients. So I'm kind of developing that program at the moment, and hoping that I can offer those families something that just helps with quality of life, because a lot of times you have to be on an immunocompressant. So, in a setting where children are all in one big group, a lot of those kids can't do that. And another thing is that MOGAD can take your mobility. I had to learn to walk again and use my whole right side in February of 2022. And so doing my music movement and mindfulness just with myself, really, along with OT and PT, of course, and being put on IVIG, a medication that modulates the immune system, I kind of, got my right side back, and I was able to learn to walk again and able to write with my hand again and feed myself and speak and all of that stuff. And so I I found that there is a need for extracurricular and just things that help to improve the quality of life for MOG patients and their families. So hopefully I can get that program on the road here within the next 6 months or so.
Wow. I bet there was lots of, not just for yourself, but for lots of people, the misdiagnosis. Not just MS, but it sounds like stroke-like symptoms.
Yes, yes. That's sort of how it presented a bit with me. In the beginning, I was misdiagnosed with meningitis because my onset was very much like meningitis. But instead, it's something called ADEM. And I presented for some weird reason as a pediatric patient. Most adults don't present with ADEM. And what ADEM does is it causes inflammation on the brain and the spinal cord, the brainstem, and will give you encephalitis. And it's a mess. But being able to connect with children in that way as an adult, I found that it's a gift now that I look back and see it, because I can work with children who I understand. I understand what they've been through, you know. Yeah.
So you have a website that you could share with me, and I can put it out when we wrap this up, obviously, so people can get some information. You know, through the years, I've known several parents that have had to do their own sort of research on things because, you know, when you think of a doctor, they can't know everything. And especially since some conditions present in a strange way, and everybody presents in every condition a little differently too. So, yeah, if you can share that with me, that would be wonderful. So, well, you've done a variety of things, and still do.
It's called the project.org. Yeah, I'll send that to you.
Yeah, okay. So then, with all that you're doing, do you have any like words of wisdom of what you would share with someone that's doing what you like to do and have done? I mean, and then you've got this story about, you know, a misdiagnosis, and that's always a challenge in itself. So how would you advise someone?
Through all of the things that I've been through in my life, I feel like if I can look for something positive in everything, I look for the lessons, and the things that I've been through have made me stronger or have led me to the place that I'm supposed to be in life with the people that I'm supposed to be with. I've met some incredible people through this process. I have really gotten to know myself better. And maybe that comes with age as well, because I just, you know, I'm in my early 40s, and you know that you hit 40 and things kind of change a little bit. But when I look at everything I've been through, I wouldn't change any of it because of all just the lessons I've learned and the people that I've met through the process.
Wow, that's an amazing way to look at it. So let's go back. You said that your dad had been on the radio. So let's get into your story about how you started doing. Well, we know about the story hour because you said your dad had been doing it, but you're writing and you write songs and you perform. Has this always been a part of your life?
Yeah. Well, my dad was more of he was typically a guest. And he and my mother had some really cool friends. I have to say that I was blessed with interesting, artsy parents who really just always exposed me to music and art and poetry. And I remember sitting under the table while his friends were sitting around, and they would just tell stories and that sort of thing. And I think that really shaped my love for the arts really early on. So I was blessed.
That is, it just makes me think about, I didn't always think about my upbringing as being that exposure until I've been around enough people through the podcast and through other creative groups that I've looked back on my own and thought, wow, I learned this and that from them, and I didn't even think of it as I was growing up.
Yeah.
So, when did you start writing your own music?
I really didn't have the guts to put my own music out there until my husband and I started playing together. Before we were married, he kind of helped me to just have the guts to do it because he was writing all of this music and these beautiful songs. And I just thought, I can write. Why don't I do that too? So he kind of helped me along with that. But I've always been into poetry and writing and that sort of thing. So it just kind of came. It was just sort of the next natural step, I guess.
And so you guys have been playing together as your group. Was it always Mother Creek?
At one point, we called ourselves Little People Big Noise. And the reason for that is because I'm a smaller stature type of person. And my husband is not a great big guy, but I guess I was always known for my great big voice. When I would start to sing, they tend to say, well, I didn't expect that voice to come out of you. So that's where Little People Big Noise.
So this podcast is called Bloom Where You're Planted, and I always ask people what that means to them.
So for me, that's kind of a saying that I've always heard here in Eastern Kentucky. And it's not something I've ever really had time to sit and think about because it's kind of a staple here. I learned in my early 20s when I moved away. I moved to Nevada, and I thought, well, everything is going to change because I'm going to move away from Eastern Kentucky. Because it is a bit harder here, there aren't as many resources, and you do have to work a little harder here. I think that bloom where you planted means that your roots are what make you strong. And if you look at all the things around you, you can use what you have to build you up, no matter how little or how much. Your roots are what make you strong.
I like that. That quote means something different to everyone. I always like that. So what is next for you and in all of your projects? What do you see as new on the horizon that you're planning?
So at the moment, what I'm doing is I'm trying to find different grants, and I've applied for a couple to help purchase music instruments that are adaptive for children with special needs. Kids with special needs need shakers that can attach to their hands. They need special sensory drums I've got my eye on. It's been suggested by a special needs parent to get light ankle and bracelet weights to kind of help them figure out where their body is at in space and to help sort of ground them a bit. Things like that. So I'm looking for grants at this moment to be able to purchase those items. And I'd like to be able to offer some free classes to the special needs community.
Interesting. All good stuff. All good stuff. So, well, this has been an interesting time. When I meet someone, I don't always know their whole story, and I had no idea you did all these different things, and that your MOAG is, am I saying it correctly?
Moga.
MOAG. So anyway, see, you'll have to write that out for me so I'll know.
Yep.
So anyway,
It's uncommon. Yeah.
it's been called a lot of things, huh? And
Yep.
so, by meeting someone, you just don't know what their life has been like. And so here you are supporting other people, being creative and many avenues. And I think it's wonderful. So I appreciate you so much for being a guest on our program today. And I'm sure that we will be in touch again about another project you're doing in the future. So
I'm honored. Thank you so much for inviting me. This has been great.
Bye for now, Kevin, and let's chat again about Kevin's to Biscuits progress in your business.
Thank you, Laura. It's really been an honor to be on your podcast, and I appreciate it.
All right. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
So as our time comes to a close, remember to keep creating, keep sharing, and keep supporting each other. And remember to bloom where you're planted. Bye for now.